Is Trump about to start a war in the Middle East? Tensions are exploding across the region. Iran is threatening retaliation, Saudi Arabia is ramping up military spending, and Israel is bracing for missile strikes. But behind the chaos, there's a calculated strategy, and Trump is at the center of it all. Why did Trump pull out of the Iran nuclear deal and start imposing crushing sanctions? Why is he backing Saudi Arabia so aggressively while threatening military action against Iran? And why are 2 U.S. aircraft carriers now stationed in the Persian Gulf, a move that some experts say is a clear signal that war could be days away? But here's the twist. This might not just be about war. Some believe Trump is playing a dangerous game of high-stakes diplomacy, using military pressure to force Iran into a new nuclear deal and position Saudi Arabia and Israel as key power players in the region. So, is this leading to a catastrophic conflict, or is Trump orchestrating one of the most ambitious peace deals in modern history? Stick with me as we break down Trump's Middle East strategy, the hidden moves, the dangerous gambles, and the shocking endgame that could change global politics forever. Let's dive deeper into the complex story of how Trump's actions in the Middle East shaped the region, and why tensions with Iran remain dangerously high to this day. In 2018, Trump made a seismic decision that altered the course of Middle Eastern politics. He pulled the United States out of the Iran nuclear deal. Officially known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, this deal was signed in 2015 under President Obama. It was designed to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons by limiting uranium enrichment and allowing international inspections in exchange for lifting crippling economic sanctions. Trump, however, saw it differently. He repeatedly called the agreement a terrible deal and argued that it gave Iran financial relief while allowing them to continue supporting proxy wars in the region. Trump claimed that Iran was using the financial benefits of the deal to strengthen its influence in Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon through groups like Hezbollah and the Houthis. By withdrawing from the deal, Trump reinstated tough sanctions on Iran, targeting its oil exports, financial sector, and key industries. These sanctions caused Iran's economy to spiral. The value of the Iranian rial collapsed. Inflation soared to over 40%, and oil exports, once Iran's main source of revenue, plummeted by over 80%. The pressure on Iran's leadership was enormous, but Trump's goal wasn't just economic collapse. It was to force Iran back to the negotiating table under harsher terms. Economic sanctions were just one part of Trump's maximum pressure strategy. He also ramped up military pressure in the region. In May 2019, the U.S. deployed an aircraft carrier strike group and B-52 bombers to the Persian Gulf, citing intelligence reports that Iran was preparing attacks on American forces in the region. This was a direct message to Tehran. The U.S. was prepared for conflict if necessary. Tensions escalated in June 2019 when Iran shot down a U.S. surveillance drone over the Strait of Hormuz, a critical waterway for global oil shipments. Trump initially approved a retaliatory strike but called it off at the last minute, citing concerns over potential civilian casualties. Then, in September 2019, a drone strike on Saudi oil facilities, which the U.S. blamed on Iran, temporarily cut Saudi oil production in half. This was one of the most significant attacks on global oil infrastructure in recent history. Trump threatened a military response but ultimately tightened sanctions instead. The real turning point came in January 2020, when Trump ordered the assassination of Qassem Soleimani, the head of Iran's elite Quds force. Soleimani was the architect of Iran's strategy in Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon. His death was a massive blow to Iran's military leadership and a direct challenge to Tehran's authority in the region. Iran responded swiftly, launching missile strikes on U.S. military bases in Iraq. While no American soldiers were killed, the attack sent a clear message: Iran was not going to back down. While confronting Iran, Trump was strengthening ties with Saudi Arabia, a key rival of Iran in the region. Trump's relationship with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman was central to his Middle East strategy. Saudi Arabia was leading a brutal war in Yemen against Iranian-backed Houthi rebels. The conflict had caused a humanitarian crisis, with tens of thousands of civilians killed and millions facing famine. Despite this, Trump continued supplying Saudi Arabia with weapons and logistical support. Then came the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi in October 2018. Khashoggi Khashoggi, a critic of MBS, was killed inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. The CIA concluded that MBS had ordered the assassination, but Trump stood by Saudi Arabia. He argued that the economic and strategic alliance with Saudi Arabia, especially its role in balancing against Iran, was more important than human rights concerns. Trump also played a pivotal role in brokering the Abraham Accords, historic peace agreements between Israel, the UAE, and Bahrain. While Saudi Arabia didn't formally sign the agreements, it gave tacit support, signaling a shift in the Arab-Israeli dynamic. Trump's strategy was clear: isolate Iran by strengthening an anti-Iran coalition in the Gulf. Israel was another cornerstone of Trump's Middle East strategy. Trump's relationship with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was stronger than any previous U.S. president. In 2017, Trump recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital and moved the U.S. embassy there, a highly controversial decision that sparked protests across the Muslim world. In 2019, he also recognized Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights, a strategic territory seized from Syria during the 1967 war. Trump also gave Israel full backing for its military operations against Iranian targets in Syria and Lebanon. Israeli airstrikes repeatedly targeted Iranian weapons shipments and Hezbollah positions, with Trump's approval. But Iran wasn't backing down. Through Hezbollah in Lebanon, militias in Iraq, and the Houthis in Yemen, Iran continued to challenge U.S. and Israeli interests. Iranian-backed forces in Iraq launched rocket attacks on U.S. bases, while Hezbollah threatened Israel's northern border. The shadow war between Israel and Iran escalated throughout Trump's presidency, with cyber attacks, sabotage, and covert military operations becoming more frequent. Trump's unwavering support for Israel gave Netanyahu the political cover to strike Iranian targets without fear of U.S. backlash. So what was Trump's ultimate goal? Was he pushing the region toward war or trying to force Iran into a new deal? Trump's strategy appeared to be a mix of pressure and diplomacy. By crippling Iran's economy and showing military strength, he hoped to force Iran to negotiate a new nuclear agreement, one with tougher restrictions on uranium enrichment, limits on ballistic missile development, and an end to Iranian support for proxy forces. But Iran refused to negotiate under pressure. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei repeatedly stated that Iran wouldn't engage in talks with the U.S. unless sanctions were lifted first. Trump refused, and the stalemate continued. Meanwhile, tensions in the region remained high. In January 2020, Iran mistakenly shot down a Ukrainian passenger plane during heightened military alert, killing 176 civilians. The incident further isolated Iran on the international stage. By the end of Trump's presidency in January 2021, the Middle East was still on edge. Iran had resumed uranium enrichment beyond JCPOA limits. Proxy conflicts in Iraq, Syria, and Yemen were ongoing, and tensions between Israel and Hezbollah were at a boiling point. So, where does that leave us today? Trump's Middle East policy reshaped alliances, escalated tensions, and left a fragile legacy that still impacts global politics. Iran remains defiant, Israel stands more secure than ever, and Saudi Arabia continues to assert its influence, but the risk of conflict hasn't gone away. One thing is clear: the choices made during Trump's presidency set the stage for the next chapter in Middle East history. Will diplomacy prevail, or are we heading toward another major conflict? Only time will tell. If you found this analysis insightful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more in-depth coverage of global events. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Where do you think the Middle East is heading next?